Morning.
Morning. Okay, so I trust we all had a productive week and we had the opportunity to go through our books, and each persons were paired into two groups. I hope you have the opportunity to network with your partner. And today's review class, we made it all the way through. It seems like we have more persons than when we started, so that's a positive. And hopefully by now, you should have made the determination if you want to go any further or if you're going to stop right here. But by all means, this is just an introductory overview level of compliance and anti-money laundering. And once you work in the financial services sector, this is partially what you would get for an annual training. So this, even if you decide not to go any further, this should have been beneficial to all. Okay, and then from our discussions, we saw that, the oil industry perhaps will need compliance. I talked about the last class where I had somebody from the pharmaceutical industry needing compliance. Just this week in the House of Assembly, they discussed, approving marijuana. So of course, that's going to need a lot of compliance and perhaps some security as well. Okay, so this should have been, like I said, relevant to all. Okay, so today, we're going to go through the review questions. All of you should have gotten a email from Ms. Dean saying that the exam has been pushed back to, let me see, is it June 5th? Did everybody receive that email?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
good.
no, I didn't receive an email from Ms. Dean.
ma'am.
What?
I know for me it popped up in my junk, but I did get the email, Miss Bullard.
Okay, so please check your junk and your spam and see if you would have received an email from Ms. Dean, please. And then for the persons who would have made appointments, she just kept the same appointments and scheduled them for June the 5th. Okay, so we are all clear on that. And if
what date was Miss Dean would have sent the email? Because I still didn't see it in my
I think she sent it out on Monday of this week, so the 17th or the 18th.
No, I think it came out on Wednesday.
Oh, on Wednesday, okay. Okay, so please check your email addresses, and if that date is not convenient, please speak with Ms. Dean. She is arranging all the times. And again, the numbers are pretty high now, so with scheduling, we have to ensure that only a certain number of persons are in at one time, and so that's why it had to be pushed back. Okay, so we are all clear. Contact Ms. Dean, make an appointment to take your final exam. That's clear?
Yes.
Okay, good. And the date is June 5th. Okay, so in the teams, on the review sheet that we sent out, number 1 says AML and TF differences. And I think is it Donovan's team that is going to answer that question for us?
That's correct, Ms. Bullard. Okay,
good. Okay, so Donovan, you want to start for us and give us your 10 points. And so what we want to do is, I can't give you the questions that are going to be on the exam, but they're going to be similar to what you had for homework. So if you did your homework, you should be familiar with the structure of the question. And so let's just think about what types of questions could possibly be on the exam, or what would be important points to put in your discussion regarding this topic. Okay, so go ahead, Donovan. And remember, it's 15 multiple choice and 7 essays. So some of these topics will be in the multiple choice and some will be in, for the most part, they are the essays. There were only 8 chapters. So of course, you have 10 choices. So you know that at least one question is going to come from each chapter. And so I hope you have your review sheet with you. Please document the 10 points that each group makes and make the decision before you show up to the exam. These are the 7, do 8. These are the topics that I am going to, practice and ensure that I have enough meat to answer the questions. And of course, each essay question is 10 points. Okay. But again, what I've seen is that persons would have gone into the exam and only like copy and paste what they saw in the review. Or if they did their homework, of course, you want to select your homework question as one of the questions you want to answer. They take, they remember, take a photocopy in their head of their homework question, and then they go into the exam and they answer. Of course, the question is going to be a little similar, but different. So, and each question has about 3 parts. So you want to ensure that you answer all the parts of the exam, of the question. Don't just remember, the question for homework is going to be similar, but different. So make sure you read it and make sure you answer all parts of it. Okay. The exam is 3 hours. You want to time yourself and about 20 minutes for the multiple choice, 20 minutes for each question. And a lot of times people who run out of time, and it's simply because they did not properly prepare before they came to the exam. But trust me, I should say, if you prepare before you come to the exam, you will be successful. If you go into the exam knowing that 100%, these are my questions I'm going to answer, you should be okay. And again, you don't have to answer question 1 first. Whichever topic is easiest to you, get that out the way. Do not leave that until the last. Okay, get that out the way first. Answer that, the easiest question, and then even if it's not the multiple choice, go back to the multiple choice, whichever section is easiest. And so you don't get caught up on the harder questions where you have to stop and think and you may lose time. So answer the easiest. You could answer question 10 first, then go question 4. So it doesn't have to be in any particular order, but you have to label each page. You have to make sure that the question that you're answering is clear. Please don't waste time and write out the question, but just the question number and your name on each page, and you should be okay. And like I said, 20 minutes, and you should be at home practicing. These are my 7 topics. Let me see how long it takes me to put these points together. Okay, so coordination, organization, all of that helps. And like I said, don't come rush. Make sure you have a nice breakfast and don't be overwhelmed, and or take an extra 30 minutes just to be calm, and so things will flow properly. Okay, and you should be okay. Okay, so Donovan.
Morning, Ms. Ballard. I don't know what's
Yeah, I'm
first
here.
part.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Our topic was the difference between money laundering and terrorist financing, and one of them is motivation. Money launderers, their motivation is to seek profit from their criminal activities, whereas terrorist financing is ideological, and the definition for that is based on or relating to a system of ideas and ideals, especially concerning economic or political theory and policy. And next one is their intention. Money launderers, the money incorporated into the formal economic through multiple operations, purchasing front companies, investing in real estate and commercial projects. Whereas the financing of terrorism is aimed at hiding money produced illegally rather than funding to finance. They fund basically to finance their criminal acts. Their source of financing, money launderers, they both have unlawful sources like robbery, extortion, kidnapping, smuggling, fraud, and stuff. But terrorist financing also gets their money from like charities, donations, sponsors, governments, personal employments. and their lifestyle. Money launderers' lifestyle is like a circular motion. It's funding, placements, layering, integration, and they keep that circle going because, like I say, they are profit seeking. Whereas terrorist financing is more linear. They fund their money, placement, layering, integration, and then there's the terrorist act or terrorist activities that they have planned. Okay, Donovan, take it over.
Thank you. Okay, the fifth difference between money laundering and terrorist financing is the effect of the financial measures. Since the end goal is to launder illicit proceeds and legitimize them into the economy, robust AML frameworks and strategies could mitigate the effects alone. And once you have rigorous AML oversight, both at the individual and institutional level, that can have a profound impact on the launderer's financial flows. Now, for terrorist financing, they exploit similar weakness just like money laundering, but alone that is not enough because the end goal of terrorism is to intimidate and to compel a organization or government to do something. So sometimes countries need the military as well as financial strategies to work in tandem to offset the effects of terrorism. The sixth difference is the impact. Money laundering can do damage alone to just the reputation and integrity of banks as well as the financial system within a jurisdiction. But for terrorist financing, the impact could be social as well as infrastructural. So the social fabric of a society could cause a population to be fearful in conducting their day-to-day activities. And the infrastructural part of it, you could damage a lot of buildings as we see in the Middle East and more infamously the 9/11 terrorist attacks, where famous New York City landmarks were destroyed. And 9/11, I think, accounted for like $500,000 in damages. The other difference is the operational characteristic. Um, Money laundering can be complex or simple, and it uses various assets like cash, land, and paintings, and often large amounts are often structured to avoiding the reporting requirements. Terrorist financing is usually complex, using various funding sources, various funding methods, and various funding streams to carry out the objectives of the terrorist or the terrorist organization. And the transactions are usually small amounts below the reporting thresholds that are then used for recruitment, training, weapons acquisition, travel, materials, and protection. The other difference, which is number 8, is the financial activity. Money launderers use a web of complex transactions, often involving shell or front companies, bearer shares, and offshore secrecy havens. When it comes to terrorist financing, there's no workable financial profile on operators in the terrorism sphere. The ninth difference is the detection focus. Money laundering can be detected using suspicious transaction reports, such as deposits of uncharacteristic suspicious transaction reports, and they can also be detected scrutinizing uncharacteristic acquisition of a customer's wealth or the expected activity. Terrorist financing, on the other hand, can be detected by way of suspicious relationships. So if I'm sending money from MoneyGram to Mahmoud in Paris and he just came off a refugee ship, then obviously that's a suspicious relationship that must be scrutinized a lot further. The 10th difference is the conduit. The money launderers favor the formal financial system, whereas terrorist finances favors informal financial systems, most notably informal value transfer systems, as well as currency exchange firms. And that's the 10 difference between money launderers and terrorist financing.
Okay, Donovan and Eleanor, that was excellent. All the points, many points, in fact, I would have given you 20 points for that answer. So very good and very detailed and with the very relevant examples. So good job. When this question comes up, immediately people go and say the 3 stages of money laundering or blah, blah, blah. do not write that for this question. You won't get any points. And so they go all, they write a whole page on placement, integration, and layering. No points. Okay, so like I said, read the question properly, ensure you understand what it says. It probably will say compare and contrast or list the differences or what have you. So make sure you read it and you understand it, because a lot of people write a lot of fluff and they end up getting 2 or 3 points. They list all layering, placement, integration, and then they go on and talk about one difference, the motivation and ideological versus for profit, and both they get one or 2 points. So don't let that happen. Ensure that the points that like I said, Donovan and Eleanor listed is the correct answer. So very good, guys. Thank you for that. Okay, so Sidlian and Alex, your question was the stages of money laundering. And so this is where you want to talk about the layering and placement and the integration.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'll be answering for both myself and Alex.
Okay.
So excuse his absence. Okay, so the stages of money laundering. Money laundering, can everyone hear me clearly, just to be sure?
Yes.
Okay. The first point we have is money laundering. Just to start it off, money laundering is the process of dirty money going through a series of stages, and at the end of it, it is now considered clean money. In other words, it can be defined as illegal property, and at the end of the process, the funds are considered legal property. Our second point, money laundering can be done by one person. It does not require a complex cycle or group of persons to carry out the money laundering process. There are 3 steps or stages to money laundering. However, the source of funds should also be considered as part of the initial process. Sources of income, which is not an actual stage, but it can be acknowledged to understand where the funds were obtained. For instance, fraud, drugs, theft, bribery, or corruption. And there are other ways as well. Placement, which is the first stage, is when the proceeds from criminal activity enters or is placed in the financial system. The placement can occur by currency exchange, requesting smaller denomination, making cash deposits, or the blending of funds. Layering. Layering is the second stage, and the goal of the money launderer is to conceal the criminal origin of proceeds by masking its true source and ownership by attempting to layer the transactions. An example of layering is the wire transfers that occur, cash withdrawals, cash deposits to other bank accounts. The third stage in money laundering process is integration, which the dirty money is now reintroduced in the economy as clean money. The clean money now gives the appearance of legitimate source, as a legitimate source. An example of integration and how funds are reintroduced is real estate investment, third-party transactions, and creating fictitious loans. Here ends our presentation.
Okay, thank you, Sidlian. And again, very detailed. And what it would give you full points is those examples where a lot of persons just go in and they list placement is this, they give a definition, integration, layering, and they end their story and they don't get full points. So those examples are very important. And please ensure that your examples make sense, because I've seen persons write examples that were not relevant to placement or probably perhaps more relevant to integration. So ensure that your examples, you write them out to ensure, a lot of times we say it in our heads, but it's difficult to write in an essay form, okay? If you find that you run out of time, we expect the first 5 questions to be in essay form. But if you run out of time, you're able to list for your 6 and 7 question. I've seen persons go through the entire exam and just write lists. No, essays are required. So for the first 5 questions, they must be in essay form, but if you run out of time, you are able to list for 6 and 7. Please don't do the entire exam in list form, and just when we give that option, person just say, oh, I just correct my 10 points, and it doesn't flow. And sometimes your points are not relevant. So please, like I say, practice your essay writing. Okay, so very, very good, Sydney. Thank you for that. Any questions so far? So we would have covered the possible questions that will be on money laundering so far and some differences with the terrorist finances. And any questions for Sydney and Donovan or Eleanor? No, it clears mud. Okay, we got all those points. Okay, okay, very good. Okay, we'll move on to Vissaline and Lenora. Thanks for tipping off and failing to disclose. And again, happen with these questions. These are primarily the multiple choice questions. Persons always get them wrong. They are always, the answers are gonna be very close, okay? So you want to ensure that you write this out and you know what the correct answers are. I have a 90% incorrect answer rate for these questions, okay? So, and another person, one time we put it as an essay and they wrote an entire essay on the 2000 version rather than the up-to-date version 218. Okay, so let's see what Vissaline and Lenora has for us, if they have the correct answer. Is Vissaline and Lenora here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we
So-
have. I'll go first. So it's split. We split it in two parts: failing to disclose and tipping off. So any person or entity failing to disclose information or any other matters to an officer of the law or department authorized to receive disclosure in relation to money laundering or terrorist financing commits an offense. Someone who commits this offense on summary conviction is subjected to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 12 years or a fine not exceeding 500,000 or both. On conviction on indictment, imprisonment for a term not exceeding 20 years or to a fine or both. The source of this information is the Proceeds of Crime Act, and it can be found on the Bahamas government website.
The Proceeds of Crime Act, which year?
2018.
Okay, great.
Okay, tipping off is letting the customer know that there are or might be the subject of a suspicion. Sorry, if a money launderer is tipped off, they are often able to hide their tracks and disappear before the appropriate investigation can be conducted. The penalty for tipping off on a summary conviction is imprisonment for 5 years or a fine of 500,000 or both. Conviction on information is imprisonment for 20 years or unlimited fine or both. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. So very good again. More than likely, these will be multiple choice questions, and you want to ensure that you have the correct answer for both. But Vissaline, you said yours was 12 years and 20?
12 years and 20.
And Leandra, you said 5 years and 20?
Yes,
So something's wrong there because the penalty.
Both are supposed to be the same.
Yeah. So that you ought to decide who has the correct answer for me, please.
Mine is correct.
Leandra?
hi.
Yours is correct, or Vissaline, be going with it?
Both are the same. Both are the same penalties. So
Okay, which, say it one more time for us with the correct penalty is, just to make sure that everybody has it.
The correct penalty is imprisonment for a term not exceeding 12 years or a fine of 500,000 or both. And on conviction of indictment, imprisonment for a term not exceeding 20 years, a fine or both.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you for that. Any questions? No, okay, we'll move on to Shanique and Ciara.
Okay, I don't see Sierra here, so I guess I'll deliver the 10 points. Domestic terrorism is a form of terrorism in which victims within a country are targeted by a perpetrator with the same citizenship as the victims. Domestic terrorists, they use, is similar to international, but the difference being there's no international influence. Domestic terrorists, they use threats to create fear among the public, and they try to convince citizens that the government is powerless. And they also try to get publicity for their causes. Domestic terrorism, it can be perpetuated by, it can be extremists, hate groups, white supremacist groups, persons advocating for animal rights or environmental rights, or even anti-abortion. Some of the things they use to carry out these threats, explosives, chemical, biological, nuclear agents, but the most widely used would be firearms or homemade explosives, or even vehicles. And they usually they like a lot of public places. These persons, they also commit crimes in the name of their ideologies. And sometimes, like within the US, domestic terrorism is something I think they're struggling to really define or even prosecute. And sometimes they consider it a domestic terrorist threat. With the terrorist financing motivations, this is steps taken by terrorists to accumulate funds for the purpose of discharging acts associated with terrorist groups. They need this financing for a variety of purposes: recruitment, training, travel, room and board, and weapons. Their sources for the funding can be legitimate or illegitimate. Examples are drug trafficking, fraud, business ownership, or charities. They too, similar to domestic terrorism, they too try to destroy or disparage a government, or discredit or tarnish a particular government. And they also try to cripple the economy this way. There is we do have counterterrorism officials, and they try to use a variety of tools to undermine the ideological pull of terrorism and try to prevent terrorists from acting on their beliefs. Okay, and that's what I have.
Okay, so give us an example of domestic, and then give us an example of international.
Well, international would be the world famous September 11. That would be international. And domestic, an example of that would be something that happened right here in the Bahamas with the shooting of the boys that were just discharged from the police station, and they all were in a shootout on Jerome Avenue.
Okay, great, very good, very good. So if you're going to use those examples, make sure you have at least 2 or 3 details that clearly explains it, okay? So a lot of people just say, for example, 9/11, and say nothing else. Okay, so you want to make sure you have 2 or 3 points within, an explanation of the example.
Okay.
Okay, good. And then with the domestic one, of course, the Tribune should have that story, or the Guardian, and it could get 2 or 3 points from there too.
Okay, so you would reference the Tribune or the Guardian as well then?
Yes, according to the Nassau Guardian, blah, 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 blah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, good. Okay, any questions? I'll be good with the terrorism. Okay. Brendan, IMF design.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so, the Bahamas government in June 2020 had to make a last resort attempt to try and stabilize its economy before complete destruction of the economy took place. The government had to take to the IMF to sort money out for the past catastrophe dished out by Hurricane Dorian, and now dealing with the current situation of COVID-19. The Bahamas were approved for the full annual quota with the IMF of $250 million. We as a country were not ready to take on any extra debt, especially in the current situation that Dorian left us in. The Bahamas at this time is still in a state of economic disaster. And as of January 2021, based on everything that has occurred within the last 2 years, it is safe to say, and also with the IMF's recommendation, that we are in an outright recession in the economy. The IMF predicts that with the help that they gave us, they see only a 2% rebound in 2021 for the Bahamas, and has told us that we will see hopefully a full recovery as early as 2024. As a part of the IMF's recommendation for economic stability, an idea was put forth to establish for the establishment of an asset registry and real estate price index to reduce information asymmetries, which would support financial inclusion for the rise of our economy. The IMF also warned and urged that in the time of such devastation to the Bahamian economy, that we pay close attention now to financial intermediation, the integrity of our integrity of our financial sector, and our cybersecurity.
Good morning. Please excuse my tardiness. I didn't have electricity.
Okay, good morning, Sierra. Thank you. Brendan, that's.
You
Hello?
done, Brendan?
Yeah, I'm done.
Would you say, Ms. Bullock?
No, I was asking him if he was done. Yeah.
Okay, so basically to give a context of the whole situation, we know that Dorian was a Category 5 hurricane, one of the most severe the country's ever seen, and it damaged 2 of our major islands, Grand Bahama and Abaco, which contributes to the GDP portion of the Bahamian economy. So with those 2 islands basically suffering, the Bahamas, well, one of our global bodies that we engage in, the IMF, they were saying that we verified or that we were approved basically of the 200 million to 250 million relief fund. But the former Deputy Prime Minister, Peter Turnquest, he rejected it on the grounds that, like Brendan said, we didn't really want to take on that form of extra debt given the time, because we already run a consecutive deficit, a fiscal and a trade deficit, because it wasn't a part of the financing mix that the government was using to recover from, financially and in reconstruction costs from Dorian. And also the government stood firm by that because they had other lines of credit, both domestically and internationally. So yeah, that's another reason why, because in addition to the sovereign insurance that we had basically from the CCRIF, the Caribbean Catastrophe Risk Insurance Facility, we qualified to pay out, they gave us $10,936,000 $6,000 plus, basically. And with that type of insurance, you get it based off the severity of the impact of the natural disaster. And like we said, Dorian was an anomaly the country's never seen before. So that was money that we would have received from that. They gave us a 50% payout immediately before they usually do. They take 14 days to do it. And then you got the rest in the 14-day time frame. Also, we had other global body and health rights organizations and what's not that came into the country to assist us. There was also a meeting at Bahama with about 300 local and international delegates, a conference they had. So the F&M administration would have received additional funding. So due to all of those other sources and lines of credit, and you also had Bahamians themselves stepping up and just doing their part when the government was sort of taking long in certain instances. So that would have been a reason why they would have rejected the monies from the IMF, even though the contingencies for it and the requirements would have been low cost. Like Brendan said, we didn't want to take on additional debt at the time. They also recommended that for future instances to buffer or safeguard from it, we have a digital financial platform. So that's where the central bank came in with the sand dollar, so that you can still have e-commerce and trade going on in spite of, or if the economy of the country was to take another heavy blow and everything wouldn't be on pause or a standstill. And that's our assessment with the IMF relief funds.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that information. And it's all very relevant. I believe the question takes you just before Hurricane Dorian and back to December 2018 when the IMF came in and they recommended that we put a disaster relief plan together or upgraded. Now, successive governments, were tired of that same insurance that paid us out. They had said, we had Hurricane Joaquin, we had Hurricane Matthew, and they said it wasn't a category 5 or there was an excessive rain. So we weren't, we didn't receive any money from those hurricanes, and we had extensive damage, I think in Long Island and Ragged Island, and we got no money. And so, and the cost of the insurance is $900,000 per annum. And so, of course, the PLP did not support paying that insurance. However, the IMF came in 2018. They recommended, before they leave, we need an action plan. And so luckily the F&N government jumped right on that and they paid the insurance of $900,000. They secured a line of credit with the IDB, which was $1 million or 100 million. I can't remember the exact amount. And then the dormant funds, they changed the law on dormant funds in the Bahamas, and we had 88 million. And so half of the dormant funds went towards the disaster relief. So 44 million. So that was a 3-tier approach that they put into action right away. And the IMF was satisfied with that. Now, normally, the international regulators, they come across as not working with us, always finding a reason to blacklist us or what have you. But this was one instance where, it was good that they applied pressure to us and we acted swiftly, because in the same year, that was December 2018, in 2019 is when Dorian happened. And had they not insisted that we put that action plan in place, we would not have gotten paid out, because the PLP government was saying, what's the probability? What are the chances that we have a category 5 hurricane? That won't ever happen. And lo and behold, in September, it happened. Okay. And so that's why we were able to tell the, I think the IDB, no, we don't want another loan. We already have the line of credit. We already have the dormant funds, and we got 2 payments from the insurance, because one was for the category 5 and one was for excessive rain. Okay, so you want to ensure you have those that 3-tier approach in your very good support around that, Ian and Brendan. Very good. Okay, is that clear? Hello?
That's clear.
That's clear.
Okay, Ian, you want to add anything? Brendan?
No, ma'am, thank you.
No? Okay, okay, great. Okay, very good. Okay, so FATF task and FATF current events, Selena and Relisha. I think Relisha is in here, Selena. And again, I didn't see a lot of persons choose this as for homework. So hopefully, you know, some of you are going to select this question on a very popular question and very easy to answer. Do we have Selena is there? Okay, Selena, go ahead.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Okay, the FATF tasks and current events in the Bahamas. The FATF, they set international AML and CTF, which is counter-terrorist funding standards or financing, standards. They monitor countries' progress in implementing the FATF recommendations. They review methods and trends of money laundering and terrorist financing techniques. They promote the adoption and implementation of the FATF recommendations globally through FATF-style regional bodies, and they encourage compliance of non-FATF members with the FATF standards. Okay, the rest of these points, I got them from the Attorney General's remarks for the opening financial year. This is January 2021. The Bahamas was delisted from the FATF gray list on December 17, 2020. The Bahamas is working to be delisted from the European Union blacklist. The Bahamas is no longer under increased monitoring by the FATF. And so far, we have conducted meetings with European Union countries, this being with their ministers of finance and high-level officials to forge direct bilateral contact with the individual countries in Europe who we may have not had traditional long-standing relationships with before. They address concerns with the Register of Beneficial Ownership Act amended September 2020, and the FATF International Cooperation Review Group of Americas, ICRG, conducted on-site review of the Bahamas on November 10th and 11th of 2020.
Okay, very good, Selena. Very good with the task, and you went to the exact right place to find out exactly where we're at with their current events. So very good. Another common multiple choice question is that when the FATF was established, or how many recommendations are there? Now, I put 49 as one of the choices. I put 41, 49, 48, and perhaps 60. And everybody went to the office and said, Ms. Bullard made a typo. How many recommendations are there? Did Ms. Bullard make a typo?
It's 49, 49.
Okay, but you know, when we speak, we always only speak of the 40 recommendations. So we had half of the class go into the office and said, Ms. Bullard made a typo. Okay, Ms. Bullard may indeed make a typo. I'm not perfect. I could make a mistake. However, the correct answer was there. Okay, so you please read through the questions, and if you believe it's a typo, just write next to, is this a typo, you know, and you will, if it is indeed a typo, you will get the points. Okay, so y'all don't get caught up in that. And the next one, and this was in my intermediate class, it was a true or false question. I put FIP rather than FIU. Again, to the office again in the middle of the exam. Is this a typo? No, there's no FIP. There's a FIU. There's no STO. It's the STR. So you have to make sure that you know you are familiar, and that's how close sometimes the multiple choice questions, and because in that FATF question, 40 was there and 49. I said, oh, you're gonna confuse the people. So I changed it to 41, and person still said it was a typo. Okay, so just so you know what to look out for with the multiple choice. some of them are gonna be very close, okay? Thank you, Selena. Okay, so number 6, Latoya and Felicia.
I don't see Latoya here. Sorry, could you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. I don't see Latoya here, so I'll just go ahead. Senior Management Board, MLRO, roles and responsibilities and common issues. I just listed a few points. The Board of Directors' primary responsibility is delivering compliance of the company. They should be provided with relevant information regarding AML, compliance risks, etc. at the quarterly meeting. Senior management and the MLRO are responsible for enforcing these policies and holding employees accountable for their actions. The MLRO is responsible for reporting to the Board of Directors to keep them abreast of any issues or challenges. The MLRO is a money laundering reporting officer. This person has to be approved by the regulators and is registered with the FIU. This role is viewed by the regulatory authorities as a very serious one. This individual is responsible for ensuring the information or suspicion leading to money laundering or terrorist financing is disclosed to the relevant authority. This includes filing SARS and responding to or executing requests from the regulators. The MLRO is expected to report all money laundering and or suspicions of such to the regulators. This individual is responsible for ensuring all staff are adequately trained in money laundering and terrorist financing. The MLRO is responsible for writing, enhancing, and executing policies. The Compliance Department provides support to the board by ensuring effective internal AML compliance and risk control is carried out daily. Their job is to design, implement, and monitor the AML framework while relying on the business to operate accordingly with it. The MLRO is the person who will be fined and or penalized should he withhold or fail to report such activities mentioned above. This individual may also be the head of compliance, but does not necessarily have to be. The AML compliance team is an independent team that identifies AML risk and what system of control should be in place, assesses, determine the risk appetite of the business, advises on, determine what processes should be implemented to review the AML risk management systems, monitors and report compliance risk. This department is sometimes known as the risk department.
Okay, so very good, Felicia. What are some of the common issues with these rules? Are you still there?
Sorry, let me switch over. I can't.
Okay.
Sorry about that. I can hear you now. I
Okay.
just switched over to my phone.
Okay, so can you give us 1 or 2 common issues with these rules?
They sometimes have difficulties, I guess, when it gets down to the due diligence, when people feel as if sometimes when they ask for these things, they don't need it, when in all actuality, they're asking for these things to stay in line with the regulations.
Okay. Okay. And then they are responsible for the culture and the tone from the top and ensuring that, you know, everybody has a attitude, a feasible attitude towards or on board with compliance and AML policies and procedures. They don't just see regulations as expensive and getting in our way and stopping the ease of doing business, but they support the compliance culture 100%.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and so again, 2 questions that we get 90% persons get wrong. Who is ultimately responsible for compliance in an institution, AML and compliance?
Board of Directors.
The Board of Directors.
Very good. Everybody always chooses the MLRO. Okay, so if you get that question, please don't get it wrong. And again, we have a duty to our customers What is it? Customer due diligence or KYC?
KYC.
Okay, yes, we are required to know our customers. Everybody picks customer due diligence. Okay, no, we are required KYC is to know your customer. Okay, the due diligence is after you would have received the information, you do your various checks and your balance and you carry on your due diligence through monitoring after you would have known your customer. Okay, or what that helps you to get to know your customer. Okay, so that's a tricky question that everybody seems to be confused with. The Compliance Commission, our newest regulator on board, who do they regulate?
They
Law.
regulate the accountancy firms and law firms.
And real estate, yes. Okay, very good. Okay, just making sure you get all of that down pat. Okay, good. Jasmine, sorry, not Jasmine, Omega. Okay, money laundering crimes.
Okay, the money laundering crimes in the Bahamas, we chose counterfeiting. Jasmine made the presentation. She sent the stuff to me, so I'll read them off and she did them in bullet points.
Okay.
One of the counterfeiting, cash, person duplicate real bills and use them as regular currency. Checks, person forge company or personal checks and signatures. Credit cards, when a credit card is lost or stolen, copies on when the card information is taken or by email or via the internet and is used to make unauthorized purchases. Forgery is when person forged signatures to receive personal gain. Medicines, the drugs include less or none of the activity ingredients or harmful ingredients, like the medicines of some of the pharmacies issue sells. Electronics, these goods appear safe and legitimate, but are manufactured and sold illegally, like the Apple and the Samsung products. Watches and jewelry is replicants of the real brand, Rolex Citizen. Accessories and appeals, replicants of the real brand, like bags. Replicants of the real brand, like bags and slippers. Footwears, replicants of the brand, Nike,
Okay.
Adidas.
Omega. Okay, you on the right track. However, we want 10 points. So you started off with counterfeiting. Very good. Then you went on to fraud. Very good. So this is how we want to answer the question. I've seen a previous question that there are 21 crimes under money laundering. So it may ask you to list 3 to 5 of them, right? And so of course you will go on with fraud, and then you will go on with counterfeiting. And then when you go on to jewelry, you will talk about the replicating one set, not 3 or 4 different sets. Okay, because that's where you won't get extra points. Okay, so you want to talk about fraud and then perhaps say what the definition of fraud is, and then give a case where somebody was charged on fraud. Okay, so if it asks you for up to 5, you only have to perhaps give 2. If it asks you for 3 types of money laundering crime, then you only have to talk about one case. You see what I mean? So we want you to gauge it, so you have sufficient information, and then you give an example and sufficient examples.
Okay.
Okay, but you good on the right track. Just don't repeat, just jewelry could be replicated as well as electronics and bags. Bam, the end of the story.
Okay.
Okay.
That was I had one more. Identity. People making IDs for other people. That was the last
but
one.
that's counterfeiting, right?
Right.
Okay, so you don't want to repeat the same thing. So counterfeiting, drug trafficking, what else? Tax evasion, arms, 21 crimes, okay?
Okay.
Fraud, yeah, so make sure if they'd ask you for robbery, extortion, smuggling, you know, trafficking. There's somebody who just got arrested this week with human trafficking. And so that's a good case to talk about. So you want to make sure it's 21 different crimes. You want to list different crimes. And like I said, if they ask you for up to 5, then you want to give 2 cases. And if they ask you for 3, then you give just 1 case.
Okay.
Okay.
Hi, good morning, everybody. I was under the impression that we had to choose one crime and elaborate on it. I didn't know that we had to list them. That's what right, my bad with that then. I thought it was because she sent me the information and it says, I thought it said choose, I thought we was just focusing on one. So we chose counterfeiting rather than going through the steps and choosing different ones, 10 different ones.
Okay.
So thanks for clearing that up.
Yeah, understood. And that's what this is for, that you come in, you bring your ideas and we just tweak it to make sure that, you know, these are the possibilities. Because like I would have seen the questions, and so yeah, it will ask you like the different types, not just, you know, or they will say describe 3 money laundering crimes. Okay, or something to that effect. Okay, so give us a case. Since you did counterfeiting, do you have a case related to counterfeiting?
I know I read one about a lady, she with the medicine. Oh no, you said a counterfeiting.
No, that's fine. With the medicine is fine.
Oh, okay, with the medicine, the lady. I know, I think it was Freeport that she counterfeit. Let me see. 1 minute.
Yeah, and see, like I said, this is why we're here, because we want to ensure that we understand what the question is asking and what it says and how it will be turned.
Oh Lord, I have the information where the lady counterfeit some medicines from Freeport, and she was using, it was a she had a pharmacy and she used the medicine from Freeport to take to the States, and she was distributing them out, and it wasn't the right medicine, and she was selling it to people, and I can't remember the fine she get for it. I had the name and stuff, but I can't remember.
Okay, that's fine. Just again, when you do your research, ensure that if you talk about fraud, you have a case. If you talk about smuggling, human trafficking, you have a case, or you just get the details if you're going to perhaps answer that question in the final exam.
Okay.
And remember, there's 10 points. So if it asks you for 5, you'll get 2 points for each one, you know, that you answer. Okay, so very good. Thank you, Omega and Jasmine. Court orders. I don't have a name. Did anybody have court orders?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Okay. You ready?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Good morning. This review is being done by Anthony Candiandra. On court orders, we'll be discussing the 7 types of court orders. A restraint order, also called a protective order, is a court order that can protect someone from being physically or sexually abused, threatened, stalked, or harassed. An example, you can have an ex-spouse who constantly harass you until you just get fed up and go to court to file a restraining order against them. A freezing order, also called injunctions, are legal means of preventing the sale of any asset and are legally enforceable if not adhered to. Generally, the injunction is put in place for a period of time preceding a court judgment. An example, a property which is being, or is intended to be used by a terrorist organization or commit a terrorist act. A disclosure order provides a means of gathering information in an investigation. It authorizes a law enforcement officer to require anyone they think has relevant information to an investigation to answer questions, provide information, or to produce documents. An example, New York State Supreme Court asked the Attorney General's office to apply to the Supreme Court for orders compelling a realtor, engineering company, Scotiabank, Citibank,
and the vehicle that engineered Bahamas' ultimate sale to produce documents that could boost both sides' legal claims. Now, DeAndre will finish off with the rest of the orders.
Hi, good morning. So I will speak about customer information orders or investigative orders. Those are given when the court believes as though the person or relevant parties have been involved in a criminal act, and they can be made to the financial institution on behalf of the relevant person or any co-signers on that account. For example, if I'm the person that the court order was given against, it can include myself just as well as if Antonique Bo is as a signatory on that account, it would also go towards her information as well. Then we have monitoring orders. This is an order that is given basically to monitor a person's activities, whether if they are believed to be involved in a specified suspicious crime believed to be involved in any type of suspicious crimes. This order does not have to be in a retrospective effect. It applies for up to 3 months from the order is given, and it can only be extended if you go back to the court and the court sees fit that you did not get the relevant information or you need more time to get the information, and it cannot extend exceed 6 months. Then we have the production order. The production order is normally given if the person is involved in if the property that a person has is seen to be involved in some type of offense. For example, I don't know if you guys remember the order with it was PHA, and I think it was called Magic Touch or something like that. I think the institution was called Magic Touch. Frank Smith was involved in this as well. Justice Hilton gave a production order for the Attorney General's office to provide all of the information that they had on a witness that conflicted a witness that conflicted her statement, basically. So I think her name is Barbara Hanna. She testified that Frank Smith was involved in this bribery, etc. But the AG office had information that conflicted her testimony. And so Justice Hilton went ahead and he gave a court order, a production order, that they had to produce all of the relevant information that they had to the opposing party. And then we have unexplained wealth orders that.
Unexplained wealth. Targeted at people linked with serious crime or who hold public office. They allow law enforcement to apply for a court order requiring someone to explain their interest in property and how they obtained it. Andre, you could give the example.
Okay, so an example we had was Miss Bullard gave in class about Brent Simonet and him being elected at one term, and then when he came back, he disclosed that he had more wealth than when he first disclosed. That caused him to have to explain exactly where the wealth came from, etc., to say that it was legitimate and not obtained in any type of criminal offense. Then we have another example was with Shane Gibson, and he had to, I think that was back in that was what, 2018 or 2019? No, I think it was 2018, when he went to court and had to explain his source of wealth because of he was being convicted of bribery and a number of other charges as well. So yeah, that's about it. Oh, and also the penalties for most of these cases are most of these orders are basically one and the same. If you are a natural person, you would get imprisonment not exceeding 2 years, or a fine of 500,000, or you can get both. Or if you're a corporate body, a fine of 1 million.
Okay, ladies, very, very, very good, very thorough and very detailed. This question, court orders, it always appears on the majority of the exams. I personally don't like the question and I wouldn't answer it. However, we have about 85% persons always answer the court order questions and they always get full points. And so I'm starting to, get towards it. But yeah, it's a very popular question and I'm always surprised. I said, why do people always answer this question? I hate this question, but people answer it all the time and they get full points. So very good. It's an easy question to answer. I just have to get it. It's just my personal, I read a book talked about instrumentalities and all that foolishness. You don't need any of that, but that's what threw me that, that is in layman's terms, but easy question to answer. So good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, Sasha, you want to talk about customer due diligence? Is Sasha there?
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Go ahead.
Okay. So Alfreda and I did customer due diligence, right? Is that what we're on?
Yes, customer due diligence.
Okay, I'm going to read the first 5 points and she'll read the following 5. So the purpose of customer due diligence is to know your clients, which prevents risk, reputation, reserve the veracity of the bank system, and complement bank risk management strategy. Number 2, when opening an account, licensees must verify a facility's holder identification by name, date of birth, or registration number, and verify the identity of any person purporting to act on behalf of the facility holder, providing proper authorization to act in such a capacity. Number 3, a natural person must be verified by providing the following documents, which is the correct and full name, 2 means of contact, date and place of birth, and the purpose of the account and the nature of the business relationship. Number 4, to verify the identity of a corporate client, a certified copy of the certificate of incorporation, the memorandum of articles and articles of association must be obtained as well, along with the name and location of the registered office, description and nature of corporate entity, and a copy of the board of resolution authorizing the opening of the account and authorized signatories as well. Number 5, financial institutions must maintain proper record keeping, which are transactions, account files, and business correspondence that should be kept for not less than 5 years from the date of the transaction of their facility holders, which should always be readily available when required to be disclosed by law. I will read the following 5.
Morning, everyone. Okay, so there are 5 statutory requirements. Sasha just mentioned 2 of them, which is identification and record keeping. So the third one, which is our 6th point, is training. Employees must have annual training in the recognition and handling of transactions carried out by persons who may be engaged in money laundering. Training is recommended for new employees, employees dealing directly with the public, account opening officers, managers, back office and operations supervisors and managers. The 4th requirement is monitoring. Systems and controls should be in place to monitor on an ongoing basis relevant account activity during the business relationship. Monitoring ensures that the institution will be able to identify any significant changes or inconsistencies in the pattern of transactions. And the last requirement is reporting, which is the MLRO function. The money laundering reporting officer function is a regulated function. It is the person to whom employees must report their knowledge or suspicions of customers who are engaged in money laundering or the financing of terrorism. This person is expected to act honestly and reasonably and to make determinations in good faith. The end of our presentation.
Okay, and again, excellent. If there are customer due diligence questions there, it's going to ask about the statutory requirements, of course, or there will be a scenario where they'll say, Mr. Bob, whatever, lives in Afghanistan, he's married to a PEP, and then they would ask you to pick out the red flags or what have you. So very good in terms of the statutory requirements and the due diligence that is required. Okay, any questions? You're very, very quiet today. You're very quiet. I hope everybody up there 10% and they're going into this exam with 35%.
We're here.
You're there. Okay, good, good. So everybody sitting comfortably for this exam. Okay, good. Very good. Okay, Ashley and Candace. Enhanced and simplified.
Good morning. Yes, ma'am. Okay, so first I'll talk about simplified, my points, and then Candace will do the enhanced. So for simplified, we put it's the lowest level of due diligence that can be legally employed. There are two main statutory requirements. You must identify a person's identity. Then we gave examples, which is their full and correct name, two or more means of contact, date and place of birth, occupation and employer can be used for that. And then you have to identify the nature of the person's activity. So the purpose of the account, nature of business relationship, estimated level of account activity. So with simplified due diligence, you must ensure that the facility holder's identity uses reliable, independent sources of documents and data. You have to ensure the identity of any person purporting to act on behalf of the facility holder. So you have to ensure that they have authorized use. Exemptions. So within the Bahamas, banks, trust companies, or credit unions regulated by the central bank and companies on Section 2 of the Insurance Act are exempted from this use of simplified due diligence. Simplified due diligence may be used if the risk of money laundering or terrorist funding is low. So if the instrument limit is between 500 or 3,000 per month, sorry. The identity must always be verified. If there's suspicion or activity of any identified risk, and it must be reported to the FIU. If the organization doubts the adequacy or validity of any previously obtained identification, it must be asked for in simplified due diligence. Okay, Candace?
Okay, good day. So due diligence is enhanced on a risk basis or when it is perceived or suspected that this business relationship or transaction can be in relation to money laundering, financing terrorism, or if there is also a suspicion of involvement in predicate crimes or identified risks, which can also include cybercrime, human trafficking, corruption. A financial institution can conclude on the base of risk that they want to obtain more information on a client. And that's in the case where the standard evidence of identity is insufficient. So special attention should be made to these areas here when there is not a physical person present. So someone else is doing the transaction on their behalf. when there is correspondent relationships, and this would include like international wire transactions from one jurisdiction to the next, occasional transactions with PEPs where PEPs are involved, anything that would include persons from high-risk jurisdictions, or corporate clients who can issue bearer shares or bearer instruments. PEPs are politically exposed persons are automatically considered high risk, and they are those authorized to perform prominent public functions in a country. So here that would include ministers of parliament, higher level positions in government, even from the military force, etc. That can also include those in prominent public functions in other jurisdictions and senior positions in international organizations. Every client during the screening process have to indicate whether they are politically exposed or not. And so that can be in a case where you are in close relation to a PEP, whether you're a family member or friend, or if you're in some professional relation to a PEP, you would also be considered a PEP yourself. And in these cases, these accounts for PEPs would be opened only with senior management approval. Source of wealth has to be provided, and these accounts are also enhanced. Sorry, they are closely monitored. So the monitoring process is enhanced as well. They're watched frequently and closely. And if it is that there is reasonable suspicion, it can be reported to, or should be reported to, the Financial Intelligence Unit in a timely manner. And that's it.
Okay, thank you, Candice. And so, actually, what I've seen in questions, they want you to like compare and contrast. And so for enhanced due diligence, you want to put an explanation in there. What would you do if this person was high risk? So what are the controls? So one control is that you will label the account as high risk. Another control would be that perhaps for low and medium risk accounts, the compliance officer approves, and for high risk, a board approves or an AML committee approves. Monitoring, you will monitor low and medium every 3 years, every 2 years, and high risk, you monitor it annually. Another control can be that you will place all the high risk with seniors and the low and medium with juniors, perhaps one high with the juniors so they can, practice, because you would hope that they would move on up. Okay, so you want to specifically list what would be the differences. For low and medium, I will only do a world check and a sanctions check. For high risk, I do Google searches. I can perhaps pay for a proximal report where they go into their country and do an investigation. And I can do other background checks, whereas with low and medium, I only do a world check. Okay, so you want to be able to iron out, if you're going to answer that question, what differences, what controls would be different, and that's how you get full points for that question. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Okay, so this is the time for questions. Everything clear as mud. We took all our notes. Now we have, we're gonna go out and do research and have our cases down back and our examples explained properly. And please read over your writing. And please be careful with the cursive. I just marked some papers and I had to turn on every light, put on 2 pairs of glasses. I still
could not read and the cross marker could not read. Please, we don't have any interpreters. So if you do cursive, please print. Okay, and that'll make it much easier to, because we can't call you and say, you know, like what you was writing or what you was trying to say. Okay, and so try and gauge yourself 20 minutes for each question, and then move on to the next question and try and gauge it so you have sufficient time to read over, because a lot of times, and you know, in the homework, you thought you wrote something, but it didn't really make sense, and so then you lose points. Okay, and make sure your facts are correct, because we are going to fact check it. So we want you, you know, somebody wrote according to the Nassau Guardian, blah, 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 it's completely incorrect. So you want to ensure that your facts are correct and that you explain. A lot of times we think, oh, I'm so familiar with the Shane Gibson case, I can sit down and write it, but then it's very vague and it does not prove how this was unexplained wealth or how this was money laundering. You know, do you actually know what he was charged with? People come up and say, oh, he was charged with fraud. No, it was bribery and corruption. So make sure you have those pertinent details. Okay, and like I say, the key is to be organized and come a little bit early so you don't feel rushed and overwhelmed by the traffic. And you know, if your work is allowing you time off, take the study days, and once you prepare, you will be successful. Okay, so hopefully I will see most of you in intermediate. Ms. Dana has put out the schedule, so you can take some time to register, and intermediate is 10 weeks, and again, a little bit more detail, but again, achievable. Okay, and then ICA, of course, is the 18 months, 9 months of AML and 9 months of governance, risk, and compliance. Okay, so if one, go ahead.
Sorry, one more. I know you probably went over this many times, but the format of the final exam would be 20 multiple choice questions and 7 essay questions.
Yeah, 15 to 20 multiple choice and 7 essay.
And each of those essay would be what, 3,500 words you were saying at one time?
No more than 200 words, a 1 pager.
Oh,
1.5 page the most. No, not writing all of that. Yeah, you just did that for ICA is 3,500 words, and so in the homework, in the homework we asked for 1,200 just to get you to the point of, you know, practice, but for the exam, 10 relevant points. So no more than 1.5 pages. Or 1 page is fine. Yeah. Okay, because you handwriting this. Yeah. People is coming, they my hand about to drop off. Let your hand rest. Don't wash no dishes and do a lot of writing the day before. So if you're gonna write out your essays, this is the time to do it so your hand don't be tired on the day of the exam. Because people is come with a brace on the day of the exam. Yeah.
Okay, that should be easy.
Yeah.
So Ms. Bullet, so next week it's no classes or anything?
No, this is the end. The class is end. This is the last class.
Yeah, that's the last one.
This is over. We did it. We could celebrate right after the exam. Right after exam, plan your celebration. You know, and even if you don't continue on, like I say, reading the newspaper, you want to move up the corporate ladder, attending the civic organizations and networking. That's very, very, that right next to being knowledgeable and certified yourself, you need to network and know the right people. Okay, so I hope that you would have taken some of my advice. You would be subscribed at minimum to your regulator and know who your regulator is and know how to go there and find policy and procedure and take the time to actually read it, and don't be afraid by this 91 pages, Ms. Bullet, but go through the table of contents, read the pertinent parts, stay abreast of what's happening in your country. And if compliance isn't for you, by all means, find out what is your next step. And even if you're at the MBA level, because we have some persons with the MBA and they don't want to go on to a PhD, there are many seminars and CPD hours that you keep current. And my institution applied to open up an account. I think it was at where was it? Credit Suisse, Geneva. And they called me on the phone for an interview. You know, I had to send my CV, and then they said, so what seminars have you attended this year? And this was in December. So I said, but it's a pandemic. You know, nobody really attended any seminars this year, but I did do a webinar, thank God. You know, and they wanted to know, and that would have been the determining factor as to whether or not that account was open for the bank. And how the bank could be told that, but yeah, MLRO has not stayed current and went to any seminars, so this account is denied. You know, it couldn't have been my fault. So please, when you see, you know, read the newspapers and the schedules, and that's why you follow your regulator, follow the Attorney General's office and the FIU. There are various trainings, and everything is online now, so you can sit in the comforts of your home and attend those trainings and get your CPD hours. But don't be caught like Ms. Bullitt saying it's a pandemic, and you know, because they didn't see it as an excuse. So please stay current and abreast of all the jurisdictions that you are responsible for. And it's been a pleasure. And like I said, I hope to see some of you in intermediate, and now that you have an overview. And if not, you know, there's a whole list of classes that the Institute offers. So if, you know, I hope to be able to work with most of you in the future.
Likewise, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Ballard. The experience was very good. You were an awesome teacher.
Great. Thank you, Donovan. It was a pleasure. I appreciate that.
Yes, Ms. Bullard, you're awesome.
Good. And this was a very intellectual class, so y'all made it so much easier. So, you know, you were very detailed, and at intro level, I was very impressed with the entire class. So keep up the good work. And like I said, if this is not your passion, please find what your passion is and move on to the next levels.
So everyone got their 10%?
No, everybody did not get their 10%.
But you just said it was
everybody did not get their 10% because I have called on a few persons and they didn't respond. I assigned them a topic. They did not participate. And it's the end of the class and I don't know them. And some people didn't even do their homework.
Could you give us a who didn't get their 10%?
No, those persons know.
Oh, you want shame the people?
Yeah, you want to but people say, Miss Bullitt, you too bold and you too abrupt. So yeah.
Right.
And again, I'm not, listen now, I cannot give out final grades. That's the office. So y'all please don't call me the day of the exam, say, Miss Bullitt, please mark my guess and tell me I can't. I'm not allowed to give out grades. Your grade will be available 2 weeks after you sit the exam. Okay, and you call the office and Miss Dean has that information.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so y'all be good. And again, like I say, a lot of times it's just nerves, it's just feeling like it's so much. And this is very achievable. And once you organize yourself and you, like I said, speak to your families, let them know, hey, it's exam time. I want the most of my investment. Please support me right now. And after I get through this process, then I need to unwind and relax and feel good. And then, you know, get back to normal. So I hope that you all have that support at home with the kids and the cleaning and the cooking dinners, and you have some time for yourself to be able to focus. Okay, and that really, really helps. You can't go from crazy to crazy. You can't go from war and then come home and be at war and then think you could study and retain stuff. So organize your lives a little bit, and all of that helps. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so y'all have a fabulous holiday weekend. Y'all put this book down till next week. Y'all have an extra week. Throw this book down and go and celebrate and enjoy this holiday weekend and then get right back to studying. Okay,
Okay, you too.
Yeah.
okay.
Thank you, Ms. Bullard.
All right. Have a good day.
All right.
Bye, everyone. Bye, everyone. Be safe.
All right, everyone.